After so many receivers were selected in round one, quarterbacks finally come flying off the board in the second round of our pre-NFL draft mock rookie draft on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm running fantasy betting in the 2025 NFL Draft coming up Thursday night on sportingnews.com.
Yeah, the draft is just a couple days away, and we are doing our pre-NFL draft rookie mock draft. So for the dynasty players out there, you're going to have your rookie mock or your rookie draft coming up after the NFL draft. But this is a fun experiment just to see how we like these players before we even know their landing spot, right? And where we take them in the rookie draft. So we already did round one. We did our first 12 picks. So if you missed that episode, go listen to it yesterday and then come back to this, because today we're going to get into our second round. Let me recap the first round for you. It went running back Ashton Genty at the 101, running back Omarion Hampton at the 102, wide receiver Tetaroa McMillan at 103, tight end Tyler Warren at 104, Travis Hunter, wide receiver at 105, quarterback Cam Ward at 106, wide receiver Mika Egbuka at 107, running back Travion Henderson at 108, tight end Colston Loveland at 109, wide receiver Matthew Golden at 110, running back Camp Scadaboo at 111, and then wide receiver Trey Harris at 112, taken by Vinnie there. So those are all the players that went in the first round. And this is a super flex mock draft that we're doing, and tight end premium. So that's why you saw a couple tight ends go off the board in the first round. But surprisingly, only one quarterback went off the board in the first round. And that's going to change here in the second round. We obviously are not super high in this class, but at the 201, I have to go Jaxson Dart here, quarterback out of Ole Miss. He probably dropped too far because he's getting projected to be possibly even a top 10 overall pick, right? But we fully expect him to be a first round pick. He has the arm to be a deep pass thrower. He led the FBS in yards per attempt last year at 10.8 yards per pass attempt. Led the FBS in completions of 10 or more yards. He's also a plenty mobile enough guy to even be used on design runs, but also like just to be a scrambler. So I do think he has it in him to have 400, 500 rushing yards in any given season. Dart is the only SEC quarterback to have 10,000 plus passing yards and 1,000 plus rushing yards with a college team since at least 2000. So he was productive at Ole Miss. There's definitely some concerns, but he's going to get a starting job. He has the mobility, the big arm. I think he probably went too late in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at quarterbacks, and we're not exactly sure who's going to land in the spot to start right away. And I think that's what we're looking at. It looks like the Saints will have an opening to start right away with the Derek Carr situation. The Steelers might as well. And then we figure there are three quarterbacks here between Cam Ward going to the Titans and the two other openings to go there. And look, you might be asking, why isn't Shedeur Sanders coming here? He's been buzzed as the number two quarterback off the board, but Jaxson Dart has a little bit more upside overall. And the other thing he does that Shedeur does not do is Shedeur is being compared with Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins. I wonder why that is. Those are strong pocket passers, while Jaxson Dart as a runner has gotten comparisons to Jalen Hurts in terms of his toughness and be able to run in the line, but also scramble for yards. And it may be a development a little bit as an arm guy, but he can make all the throws here. So again, for fantasy, Jaxson Dart might have a better path here to relevance. I mean, Sanders, we know the pocket passers have a capped ceiling here. In this league, as we add more and more of these mobile guys, they're going to be pushed down where we don't feel as great, and they're going to have to do more. They're going to have to hit 40 touchdowns potentially with 4,500 to 5,000 yards to get those numbers. Those are hard things to get, and they can fluctuate from season to season, but the rushing yards and the production there. So I love it. I was looking at Dart potentially with my next pick here, and just trying to get my second quarterback. I did draft Cam Ward. For the record, Michelle didn't have a quarterback before this, so this is a good addition here to think about dynasty keeper futures here. I think Jaxson Dart is an excellent pick there. Now, I'm going to go to 202 here. And I do have the other Ohio State running back, so I might as well get the other one here, Quinshon Judkins. I already have my first quarterback, so I'm going to wait a little bit, see what I can do to get my second quarterback with a couple of guys on the board. But Judkins, big time finisher. He scored a lot of touchdowns. He has some explosion. I think it's a little bit different where Trayvon Henderson might be better open field back and Judkins is the punisher, but they can both cross over and handle loads to be bigger. So the Broncos, I think, could use Henderson or Judkins. We can see maybe Judkins comes in and the Steelers potential path here. With Jalen Warren, they need a guy that can thump a little bit, has a little bit more explosiveness than Najee Harris gave them at this point. So Judkins could be a good landing spot for them. It could also come into play for the Cowboys as their option here. So there's a lot of ways that Judkins and Henderson will have fantasy relevance sooner rather than later. So this is interesting. I now have two guys from this Ohio State backfield, but look, after you get to Ashton Jeanty and Omari Hampton, they went 1-2 in this draft. You got to start looking for values, and this is the guy I'm going with, Quinshon Judkins, and I'm hoping one of my quarterbacks will fall to me at 204.
Yeah, so I like Judkins' pick a lot. I would have picked him with my next pick. Where you took Trayvon Henderson at 108, I like Judkins there more. I actually just like him more for fantasy overall. I think he has the skill set to be a lead back. We saw at Ole Miss before he transferred to Ohio State. He got the backfield to himself, and he was fantastic. And then at Ohio State, then he had to share with Trayvon Henderson, and then the workload just went down for him. He still was very productive. But I think he could be that workhorse type of back in the NFL. He has the skill set. So I like that Judkins pick by you, and I'm excited to see where he goes. At 203, I am stealing another quarterback from you. And this guy, he has the option to blast up draft boards after the NFL draft. And it's quarterback Jalen Milroe from Alabama. It all depends on how early he goes in the draft, right? If he gets taken late, he's going to the NFL draft, shockingly. I don't expect him to be a first-round pick, but he must think there's a chance if he's attending the draft that he goes in the first round. And even if he goes in the second round to a team that needs a quarterback right now, like the Steelers, like the Saints, like the Jets even, all he needs to be is on the field. It doesn't mean he's going to be a good NFL quarterback, but he is going to be a good fantasy quarterback instantly with his athleticism, his arm strength. Like, we don't need him to be a great pocket passer. We just don't. He's going to get all the rushing touchdowns, the rushing yards. Like, he does have that capability to be the next Jalen Hurts. So that's why I'm going with Jalen Milroe here at 203. I think he's worth the risk. Now, obviously, if he starts falling the draft, third round, fourth round, then it's like, he might not get a shot. So he has an opportunity to fly up boards or fall down boards, but I think 203 is a safe spot for him for right now, pre-draft.
Yeah, it's a good thing to look at for sure. I mean, we look at Cam Moore and the Titans, then we get to the Saints and Steelers. They look like the most favorable openings for a rookie quarterback to come in and play right away. And we see the Browns too, but they might be more developmental mode. I don't think we want to be as excited about Dart or Milroe or anybody else if they go to Cleveland here. But the other landing spot that's popped up for Milroe is the Jets, because they are still probably looking for a quarterback, even though they have Justin Fields. Again, similar skill set. If they're going to run that type of offense, they might want a guy that's got a little bit more upside passing, is also a very capable runner, and maybe just have a competition, open it up. They did spend some money on Fields, so that might indicate that he is going to be the starter no matter what, and that could cool off Milroe for his production. But I think Saints or Steelers, you definitely have to pique your interest, and maybe it all flips and we want him even ahead of Cam Ward in these drafts if that happens. And it could be a very similar scenario to Lamar Jackson, where the Ravens came in at the bottom of the first round at 32. They said, we like his upside as an athlete. We want to draft him, find a system for him. So Jalen Milroe is a good pick there for sure. I'll go with Shedeur Sanders here. So again, shocking maybe to some that Dart and Milroe are going ahead of Sanders. It could happen in the real draft too, folks. But the chances of that are maybe less than it happening in fantasy, right? Sanders, again, is not going to give you anything running. You might need to sit on the bench depending on where he lands. And just musical chairs, right, between these landing spots. I mean, Ward seems to have a seat with Tennessee. Who's going to end up of these three with Pittsburgh and New Orleans? And then those guys will have the fantasy upside, where the other guy, hey, we've got to cool our jets a little bit. and wonder. So same thing if Sanders ends up with the Jets, right? That's going to be a waiting process because they have Fields, and all of a sudden he doesn't have a lot of appeal. But I'm taking Sanders again. This is a super flex 2 QB league. I love that downfield accuracy and arm. He's got to go to a place where he can be prolific with his passing numbers because he's not going to give you a lot of running. But here we are. I think it makes a lot of sense to take Dart and Milroe ahead of Sanders purely because of the running.
So after only one quarterback went in the first round for us in our mock draft yesterday, 3 have gone in the first 4 picks of the second round. We are going to get to our next 4 picks of the second round, picks 205 through 208, right after we hear from one of our sponsors. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by the Game Time app. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. It's the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. You get to see a panorama view of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. It takes seconds to buy tickets on the app. It's so easy to use. 2 taps and you're set. And then they have the best ticket coverage in the business in case anything goes wrong. They have event cancellation protection, 24-hour return guarantee, and even job loss assurance. You get to take the worries and the guessing work out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, at pick 205, Vinnie, you're making me take this guy. I'm not excited about him for fantasy, but I'm going to take him anyways in case I'm wrong because, I can be wrong. So I'm going with wide receiver Luther Burden III out of Missouri. There's a very solid chance he could be a first-round pick, at the worst, a second-round pick in the actual NFL draft. So he's going to have the draft capital. We know, the skill set for him to be a good player in the NFL, it's there. He's so good after the catch, average 7.3 career yards after catch per reception. That's absurd. Also, what's great for him is that even though he's getting those, tough yards after the catch, he isn't getting injured. He didn't miss any games due to injury in college. So his body's been able to hold up. But he's so limited right now. His route tree is limited, right? He's very much that gadget player. I don't like to take gadget players in my fantasy drafts because so much has to work out for them to work in fantasy or just work in the NFL. He has to go to a good system, right? A system that's going to know how to utilize him. And a system that's going to force him the ball. He needs to be forced the ball like Deebo Samuel was with the 49ers when he was great. It's just a very limited sample size of these gadget players who end up working out in the NFL. Now, maybe Burden can turn himself into an all-around great wide receiver that, he has that in him. But so that's why I didn't go with him earlier. But I do think at the 205, I couldn't let him keep falling further than that, especially knowing his draft capital that he should be getting.
Yeah, I think the one thing about Luther Burden, he's a very smooth guy in terms of running routes, and that's going to be very helpful for him. And right now, the Rams-like teams are the most interested. So you have the Rams, you have the Bengals, you have the Falcons, these teams that run the offshoot of that system. The Vikings, he could be in play for them as a third receiver. Unfortunately, a lot of these places are not very good for fantasy. So you're going to have to wait, see how things develop on some of these situations. Maybe ends up in Seattle where Cooper Kupp is fading and maybe just has a little bit of time left, right? And then they need another guy with Jackson Smith in the Jigba. So that could be a situation that works out. So that's another kind of different style of offense there with Clint Kubiak, but that kind of McVay, Shanahan, group of teams are where you're going to be looking at. Maybe it's Miami where he lands. Maybe we get a Tyreek Hill trade all of a sudden during the draft and that works out. But right now, this is where we have to take him. And there's going to be a drop off here. We're taking 24 rookies in this. So when you get top 24, you're not going to be all immediate impact players. Really, a lot of this is now transitioning in the second round to guys that we're looking at to give us some value in 2026 when we're drafting this way. So I like it. Luther Burden is a good player. I think he's going to end up in the first round, but again, we kind of want him to go the second round, then he'll end up on a team where there could be more targets available than forced in a situation where he gets into a crowd. Say, we don't want him on the Eagles, for example, right, to be their third receiver. It'll be great for him to be on the team, but it's not going to be great for fantasy. But this other guy I like as a sleeper that could really go off, and we will talk a little bit more about our favorite draft sleepers. We'll go much deeper than this, but Jack Beck, I really like out of TCU. He's had an outstanding pre-draft process, and when I say that, just all the All-Star games, Senior Bowl, Combine, all the workouts. He's been extremely impressive. He could really operate well as a big slot on a lot of teams. He could also be on the outside. I think he's a guy that's just impressive overall with what he can do. He can give you a little bit of everything, some big plays, some reliability with his hands. So again, he's a guy that I would also watch out for to sneak into the first round late. If that happens, now again, we don't want him to go to the Eagles or Chiefs or any of those crowds, but we might start to pay attention. Maybe if it's in the Ravens passing game, all of a sudden clean up some of those guys behind Zay Flowers. We might start to look at this being an impact spot. But again, maybe he ends up in the second round, maybe to the Steelers or something like that, where they need some extra help. So watch out for this guy. He's got a very good skill set. Remember, the fantasy guy that's that wasn't Brian Thomas Jr. Malik Neighbors was Lad McConkey, and we thought Marvin Harrison was going to be better than him. So there's going to be someone that emerges from the second round that's going to be special in fantasy, and Jack Beck definitely could be him. And I think he also has some outside potential, which I really like about this receiver. And I think he's going to be continuing to buzz about. I think he could really fit well with the Jets there as their second receiver with Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, there's a lot of landing spots just for all these positions, honestly, of guys being able to go in and instantly have a chance to earn a workload. And that's where I'm leaning here at the 207. I'm going with another running back. I'm going with Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. So this is probably too late for him. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if he ends up being an early second round rookie draft pick, or maybe even earlier than that after the draft, especially if he goes in the second round, where he's projected to be a late second round pick or third round pick this year. So we'll see where he goes and how early he goes, but very, very productive in school. He had over 1,500 rushing yards and 21 rushing touchdowns this last year at Iowa. He's a fine enough receiver where he can get those, screen passes. Like, he's not going to be an 80 target guy, but he's good enough where he can get your 50 targets, your 300 receiving yards, where it doesn't have to be that he's just a zero in that area. And he's also already pretty much a solid pass protector for a college prospect coming out of school. So that's a good plus for him too. He's not going to be super evasive runner in that home run speed, but very, very powerful bruiser type back. I think there's a landing spot for a guy that's 6'1", 224 pounds that can take a big workload. So I'm excited to see where Caleb Johnson can go. And instantly, I think he can get a workload with the team.
Yeah, he might surprise us the way that Ramondre Stevenson did. He had a little bit of power coming in, but then he expanded his role as a receiver a little bit, then went back to what he did well there in college at Oklahoma. So this could be a very similar type prospect. And the other thing, you can spin the wheel here and look at what teams need backs. There's a lot: Raiders, Cowboys, Bears, Browns, Steelers. You go down the list. There's a lot of teams that could use a complimentary back or a lead back here. So there are some openings here, and Caleb Johnson right in that mix with those guys we've talked about in Genty, Hampton, Henderson, and Judkins. He's on the board too as someone who could have a very good impact landing spot. Now I'm going with another receiver, much like Trey Harris, that has size. So I'm kind of taking a dart throw on this player, Jaden Higgins, another big receiver. We have a lot of those after Ted McMillan this draft. And again, those big receivers can give you those cheapies with the touchdowns and stretch of field. Again, how I look at the upside of some of these guys is when Mike Williams is healthy. That's what I always look at with these bigger receivers that are on the outside. When Mike Williams is healthy, he was a very good fantasy receiver, but he just didn't get all the breaks here. So that's kind of upside that some of these guys carry. And Higgins, I think, reminds me a lot of Trey Harris. So I'm taking a shot that between Beck and Higgins and Harris, I'll have a very productive receiver that I'm going to really like. And we'll see. Maybe I get 2 out of 3 really working out. And again, you don't know exactly until the team they land on. Then you have to see the effort and the depth chart and all that. But again, we're going based on this talent before we get to location. So I do like Higgins quite a bit at 208.
Yeah, it is nice that this class has so much size, right? We're not like
Yeah.
just hoping that these little small guys can make it in the league like we were a couple years ago in the draft. Like, it's just nice to have size, and Jaden Higgins was a good pick here. It definitely was, considering him. We have 4 more picks to go in the second round to close out our pre-NFL draft mock rookie draft. We'll get to that right after a quick break.
This episode, Locked On Fantasy Football, is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. And you can also know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox. Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign to the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple. It's all on your TV. You'll get the latest technology for elevated playing. More responsive gameplay is what you're looking for, with lightning fast speeds you need to stay at your most competitive as a gamer. Endless entertainment comes with it as well. We know that more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from favorite subscribed services. You know what they are: Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. And then you can always take it on the go. Affordable and portable gaming for you that you can use with a console already, and you never have to worry about leaving it behind. It's easier to travel with, allowing you to take your kids' games wherever you're plugging. That's always good to know. Check it out. I mean, this is great for gamers of any age. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Check it out only on Amazon Fire TV. All right, Michelle, it is time to wrap up our look at the rookie rankings. In essence, what we're doing, the top 24 here, and we're doing it how we might want to stack them for future considerations, dynasty, immediate impact, keeping all that in mind. So you're on the clock again. We've had a few wide receivers go off the board. I guess you're going back there for 209.
Yeah, I'm going back to wide receiver. This class is just loaded with wide receivers and running backs, honestly. Like, there's a lot of guys I like. It's a much more top heavy for the running back position, I'd say, but there's also a handful of guys that we're going to really like in the middle rounds as well. And then that's the case with wide receiver. I really am excited for Alec Iomanner from Stanford. His size, his speed, 6'1", 206, 4'4", 440, 38-inch vert, and just what he did at Stanford in a really bad passing offense, right? Like, the starting quarterback this year for Stanford had 1,700 passing yards and 10 touchdowns in his 11 games played. Iomanner, I'm so bad at saying his name, Iomanner, had 831 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. So again, the starting quarterback threw 10, and Iomanner had 6 touchdowns. And then even in 2023, he caught 6 of the 11 passing touchdowns Stanford had all year long, with 1,000 receiving yard season in 2023 as well. Like, he was in a terrible offense, but still got it done. And he has the body control to make those really tough contested catches. He has plenty of speed to make those big home run catches. I really like him. I think he could be a big time talent in the NFL, hoping he can land in the second round. But I do think the furthest he falls is the third round in the NFL draft.
Yeah, hopefully he'll land in a similar situation, but have a better chance for production as Michael Wilson, another Stanford product who is there with Marvin Harrison Jr. in Arizona. I'm surprised he hasn't done more. I mean, he's a very good player. I think part of it is, again, some passing game issues there, but in the right system, again, I look at the 49ers Rams system. It's just really one of the better systems in this league overall. And another team that is looking for that third receiver potentially to replace Tyler Boyd and get a cheap guy in there with Jermaine Burton, not great as the Bengals. So something to look at there where he might have an opportunity where they had sustained 3 receivers before. So that's a good landing spot for some of these guys we're talking about here in the second round, top 24 outside of 13. Now, let's go to my pick. I'm going back to running back. I feel like I've loaded up on a lot of running backs here, but I do this in a lot of drafts. redrafts. Like I'll end up with 4 rookie running backs in a regular redraft league because I just want to like peel these lottery tickets and see what I can get. But Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, he's a good change of pace back. Now, look, that's where we're going to get to at some point. There's only so many workhorse roles. Hard to look at upside. I consider him as a guy that the Colts are targeting quite a bit as a change of pace guy behind Jonathan Taylor. They could definitely use, as they saw last year, to improve that backup situation a little bit with a little bit more dynamic of a runner. So that's the kind of player that Sampson is. He's got some speed, quickness, home run ability. So again, I want to add this player. Like, is he going to be maybe glorified Tyjae Spears? He could be, and we don't get anything out of him, but he's got the speed and quickness to get on the field somewhere. Again, he just is a very talented runner, but the explosiveness really stands out to me more than anything else.
Yeah, I like it. And I'm also going with a running back with my final pick here. You still have one more pick, but I'm going with running back DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. I'm shocked that he's not projected to go higher. He's a 3rd, 4th round projection for him. 6 foot, 212 pounds, 4.43 speed, 39.5-inch vert. Like, great athlete, plenty of good size, and his production has been fantastic. He's averaged 102.8 rushing yards per game over the last 2 years as he's been a starter with Kansas State. And when you watch him, like, he's just so fluid. Everything looks so easy for him. He's a very patient runner, fluid runner. Like I said, he just makes it look very easy. He has a burst to take off with those big runs. He's a good enough receiver. Like, that's kind of his, I guess maybe that's what's pushing him down is his receiving production. But on tape, like, he's made some good catches while on the run. Like, it's not like he has to stop fully to make a catch. Like, I feel like he's a plenty good enough receiver to get it done for fantasy and in the NFL. So I think he should go earlier than the 4th round. I think he should be at least a 3rd round pick. Plenty of teams that have a need at running back for him to land in a good spot. So I'm going DJ Giddens. I hope he lands in a spot where he can at least compete for to at least split a backfield next year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of guys like this. We'll get into our favorite sleepers that we haven't mentioned here. But we look at Devin Neal, we look at RJ Harvey, we look at even maybe Trevor Etienne if you go down a little bit down the board. So there's some names and interesting players, Bashal Tutin as well. So there's some players at running back. We'll get into them. But really, at this point, when you get to 3rd, 4th round, it's a little bit dependent on their landing spot, right? And there are opportunities that could come with that. So we're going to watch that carefully. Good pick by you to go Giddens after Sampson. I'm going to end with a guy that I think is going to have a volume-based role. This is more of a PPR pick, Xavier Restrepo of Miami. Now, he's just a pretty good guy that gets open all the time. I think he could be a volume-based guy where he's going to see some targets in the middle of the field. I think in the slot-based situation where he's the main guy. I don't know if maybe the Bears want to use him a little bit, right? I mean, maybe you pair him with Caleb Williams, replace Keenan Allen, get somebody in there, and this offense could suddenly have a lot of things going for it, right? Depending on what they do. But he's a slot for sure, but I think he could be a high volume slot where he could just get open, see a bunch of targets here, make a few big plays after the catch. He's going to be very reliable. Obviously, the Patriots always come to mind for these type of receivers. He would be a good fit there. I think he's a good fit with the Jets if they choose to go and get a slot guy to play off Garrett Wilson there as well. So interesting prospect for sure. He is very prolific, catches a lot of balls, and I think that could be his calling card here in the NFL.
Yeah, and he's projected to fall in the draft because he ran like the worst 40 time you could ever imagine for a wide receiver.
That's not his role, though. Yeah.
4.85 40 at Miami's Pro Day. That's what's going to push him down. Now, he did come out and tweet, but then he deleted the tweet that he injured his hamstring right before the 40. And he says he's working on recovery. Now, maybe he's using that as an excuse, but the tape doesn't show 4.85 speed. So I do kind of believe him that he hurt his hamstring, or maybe he just didn't prepare. The 40 is a lot about preparing and knowing how to take off. So I do think he can be one of those guys that you're going to be able to get at a value because he might not get the draft capital. And that's why he's falling here right now, because the production was there at Miami. He looks good. He has the talent. It comes down to is the speed what holds him back? And that's really it. So yeah, we'll see if it was actually the hamstring or he's really that slow, I guess. But will be interesting to see how far he falls in the draft, or maybe we get a surprise and he gets taken earlier than we thought. That is it for our mock draft today. We are going to get into sleepers that we think could go, third, fourth, fifth, sixth round in the NFL draft that we're really interested in for fantasy. We'll get into that the next 2 episodes. And then we got the NFL draft on Thursday. So we will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye, y'all.